Hey everyone, it's been super long since my last kitchen video. I didn't forget, we were just waiting for a couple of small things like trim, and we also had to finish our Microhood. I was hoping to do two different videos, one about the Microhood and one for all the trim and finishing details. But because it's been so long and because we are done our kitchen, I decided to combine those into today's video. And then the next and final video will be all about the kitchen reveal.
Our original kitchen had a small exhaust that went straight outside. However, now that we were installing a Microhood, I knew that the existing hole would be too low. The husband tried to convince me that we could still install the Microhood at that same height, but as you can see here, it was way too low. Once we decided on a height for the Microhood, we measured that Ikea cabinet and then measured where we need to install our suspension rail. Make sure to check out my video about how to install Ikea cabinets if you want more information about this. Because this was going to be the only cabinet installed on this wall, we did have a bit of play of where we wanted to put it left and right. We figured it'd be easiest to center it exactly where the old exhaust used to be, as well as leaving extra space for a cover panel on both sides. Next came a really tricky part, which involved measuring and cutting where the new exhaust hole would go. We had to cut a hole in the drywall, take out the old insulation, and then move it up. From there, the husband got on a ladder outside and then moved everything up. We then made sure everything was sealed and secured on the exterior wall, installed a new piece of drywall, and continued our Microhood installation. From there, we attached our cover panels, reinstalled the doors, finished the backsplash, and then I had to make a custom cover panel to hide some electrical that we couldn't move. From there, it was just some additional drywall patching, adding some trim, and then painting everything to match the rest of our kitchen.
One of the things that'll help make your kitchen look more built in is to cover up all of these underneath panels. Especially if your cabinets are raised, you'll notice you can see kind of the screw holes, you'll see any seams, and there's a bit of a gap in the back. So what I like to do is use these 1/8 hardboard panels, and I have it cut to size here, so I'm just going to put some glue, and I'm going to nail it in, and then I'm going to block all these seams, and then paint it all the same color as my doors. For the corner cabinet, I just measured a square, and then I'm going to take it like this, draw kind of the angle, and then cut it out so it's the perfect fit. You could do this before you install your cabinets, but you usually aren't going to remember to account for the back seam here, and especially if your walls are kind of unlevel, you might have some stuff there. If you are installing a backsplash, usually your backsplash will cover some of that. So right now, if you do install a backsplash, even without putting these panels, you will cover some of that gap, but it won't be completely hidden.
I just wanted to make a note about adding these cover panels is that it's completely optional. You can install the decostrip trim pieces directly from Ikea, and that'll cover the front. In fact, we did that option with one of our kitchens, and we even installed our LED under cabinet lights behind that decostrip. This method will just block off all of the holes and make everything look built in, and it's a lot cheaper to install these small cover panels than an additional piece of wood. You will need to go back and cover any gaps or nail holes that you have, sand everything, and then prime and paint it to match your cabinets. You can paint the bottom of your cabinets directly instead of adding these panels, but I strongly urge you to sand them, install a good primer so the paint doesn't peel.
Okay, so I'm above my fridge right now because I want to show a couple of different areas, and I have the cabinet doors taken off because it's going to be a lot easier to do our crown molding up here and also to fill in this gap. Let me just turn around. I'm on a ladder. So here we have just a small gap, and when you're designing your IKEA kitchen, a lot of times they'll say you should have an extra 2 or 3 inches, just so you don't end up in this situation. I kind of ignore that and try and get as maximum amount of cabinet space as I can, but obviously then we're end up with a little gap. If you had a drawer, you wouldn't be able to, you wouldn't have a drawer up here, but if it was at the bottom part, you wouldn't be able to open up your doors. So definitely don't do it if you have drawers, but if you have doors, we can open our doors fine. I mean, it goes into this space. But what do you do with this little piece? So I have cut here just a 1/4-inch piece of lattice is what they're called. It's just a thin piece of molding. I'm going to put some glue on it, I'm going to nail it into the sides and fill in the gap, and then caulk and paint and match all that to cover all the seams. Up here is a bit thicker, so I might do like a double thickness. We'll see how that goes once I put it in. But basically we're just going to fill it in so it's nice and flush, and then paint it all to match. When the doors are open, you don't really see the gap. It's just something that you want to have covered, you know, like bugs and dust going in there. So the next thing I have up here is our crown molding that we're going to do. When you're designing your kitchen, you might want a specific crown molding look. For us, we had our tall cabinet here, which is the 90-inch, so we were kind of putting all of our cabinets lining up with that, so we would be left with the smallest space possible. So I have here just it's called a 2-inch, but it's actually 1.5 inches, and that will fit across nicely. I have them all cut, so what I'm going to do is, again, glue the bottom and then just nail in from here. If you are installing a thicker crown molding, and by that I mean like a taller one, you will want to have a backer installed. I do have a blog post about that, so you can check that out. But otherwise, I'm just going to nail it straight like this and glue it. Now, you can also see here that there's a bit of a gap on the top. Your ceilings probably won't be level. Ours aren't. It's a lot closer over there. If you were going with just a flat piece here, you would usually want to, sorry to hold this, kind of put it to the ceiling, because you are going to see the ceiling when the doors are closed, and then you can fill this in, or you can kind of go half and half and kind of fill it in. But what I'm going to do is go flush to the bottom, and then I'm going to add a small piece of cove molding, which is kind of like a concave circle, kind of like a quarter round, but the opposite way at the top. I'm just waiting for that to come in, so I'm going to install all these today right now, wait for those to come in, and then do that. So we shall see how that goes. And any places I know over there, I'm going to have to shave a bit over here on my board. But we'll get to that. So now you can kind of see what it looks like and why we're doing what we're doing.
Those two little images kind of showed how it looked with the trim pieces installed, and then after the first round of patch, and then eventually also got caulked and painted to match the cabinet color. And now I have a video here of me installing those pieces and then installing all of my trim at the top. You also get a glimpse into my cabinets, which I did eventually organize a bit differently, and I'll show that in the video next week. I also want you to note that I am not being very safe on this ladder, and although I did not fall today, I did end up falling another time, so this is probably why. So don't do that. And then here we are installing the last little corner pieces for the angled section. I did end up taking these down, which was kind of a pain, but I didn't really like how the angle was showing up when the cabinet door was closed. So this photo shows how it looks in real life, which is kind of wonky, but it looks better when the door is closed. It allowed me to do a straight section rather than having to add the little angle to accommodate the cover panel.
Thanks for watching this video about installing our Microhood and doing all the finishing details. Make sure to tune in to our final video coming up next week with the kitchen reveal. And go to madisonmethod.com to check out all those photos. Thanks for watching!